Cook with me to learn this risotto recipe that has mushrooms and peas in it. We also include some scallops. Tonight for dinner we are going to make a recipe I found on the New York Times website. I've modified it a little bit, but it's a mushroom pea risotto. The ingredients that you will need are some fresh thyme and sage, a cup of peas that are thawed out, a cup of rice, half a cup of Parmesan Reggiano, half a pound of mushrooms. We went with a mushroom blend which has baby bella, shiitake, and oyster mushrooms, 3 garlic cloves, 2 shallots, 2 packages of bone broth. You can substitute with chicken broth or vegetable broth if you want to make this vegetarian. We're using a smoked salt, olive oil, ground pepper, and half a cup of red wine that's sweet. The recipe actually recommend white wine, but this is what we had on hand. We'll get started on prepping the ingredients. We have to mince up the garlic and shallots. Make sure the mushrooms are bite-sized pieces. Remove the leaves from the stems and mince up the herbs. And we'll begin. We finished prepping the ingredients, chopped up the herbs, and minced up the garlic and shallots. Broke up the mushrooms into smaller pieces, and our first step will be to saute these shallots on the stove and simmer the broth to get it nice and warm. First you need to saute your shallots on medium-high heat until they're tender. It'll take about 3 to 5 minutes in a hot pan with a little bit of olive oil. And then on our back burner we have the broth. It's on a low heat so that it'll start simmering to get it ready when we add the rice. In about 1 more minute we're going to add the mushrooms to this mixture. Now you increase the heat some and add the mushrooms. Cook them for about 3 minutes or so until they start to sweat. And then you'll add the garlic, thyme, and sage. About 3 to 4 minutes have passed and all of the mushrooms are kind of glossy, wet looking because they began to sweat now. I've added the minced up garlic and herbs, and I'm going to stir that in and cook it for a few more minutes. And then we will add the rice and begin cooking the rice and adding the stock. I've added the cup of rice to the center of the pan. This is a good reason to use a non-stick heavy duty pan so that when your rice is in there in the crackling stage it doesn't stick and burn. And then we're going to add the wine here in about 2 minutes after it starts to make a popping sound like Rice Krispies, but you can already start to hear it a little bit. So we might do it in about a minute instead. And then you cook it until the wine is absorbed completely, and then you start adding the stock. I added the wine to the pan and it's completely absorbed. So now we will start ladling in the stock, 1 ladle at a time for the next 15 minutes or so until it's completely cooked into the rice mixture. And then at the very end we'll add our peas. At this stage you'll want to add the salt and pepper as well. Add 1 or 2 ladlefuls at a time. Let it bubble away and cook until it's completely absorbed. And then add another ladle to or full until you have emptied the entire pot of stock into your rice. As I add ladlefuls of stock, I have to stir the mixture. Then I like to flatten it out so that the rice is getting evenly coated with the stock to cook properly. Now we add the peas to the risotto mixture and cook for an additional 10 minutes while adding a few ladlefuls of what's remaining of the stock, which, as you can see, I don't have a lot left. Maybe a cupful at this stage. When prepping your scallops, you'll want to peel off the connective tissue because this part will be tough no matter how you cook them. It's a little shinier and white than the rest of the body of the scallop. Not all of them will have it, but you can see where it is. It's a different texture than the rest of the scallop. You'll want to pick that off before you begin cooking. When we cook it, we're going to want to take paper towels and dry them off completely. And then we're going to sprinkle a tiny bit of salt and pepper on top of them before searing them inside a pan with butter. Once the butter gets nice and hot and starts to bubble some, you can begin adding your scallops, which I just season with a little bit of salt and pepper is all. The risotto is now finished, and we just have it sitting on the burner to keep it warm. We're cooking the scallops, which won't take very long at all. About 1 to 2 minutes on each side. Keep flipping them for up to 4 to 5 minutes. They're very close to finished now. As you can see, there's a little bit of golden brown edging to the scallops. When they're done, they're going to have a slight firmness, but still bounce to them. And that's when you know that they're finished. But I always buy 1 extra scallop, and I test the largest scallop to make sure that it's cooked all the way through. I pulled a tester piece after 3 minutes, and they are finished cooking now. I hope you enjoyed this recipe and cooking along with me. I'm getting ready to eat dinner with my family, so bon appetit!